Welcome to the Power 365 show. Full show notes for this episode can be found at nz365guy.com/284. Before we chat with today's guest, here's a quick message from our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you by none other than me. My career has spanned over 20 years in IT and 16 of those in Microsoft Business Applications. I've worked with multiple countries, developed many staff and grown practices. I'm now offering career and business coaching. So if you're wanting to, start a practice and you want assistance around that, or you want to know the next steps to take in your career, maybe consider coaching. You can express your interest at nz365guy.com/coaching. Now, let's get on with the show. Today's guest is from Greece. He works with Microsoft in the Power Automate team. He is a Microsoft partner software engineer. As a co-founder and CEO of Softomotive, one of the leading worldwide providers of robotic process automation solutions. You can find him on Twitter at Marios Stav. Welcome to the show, Marios Stavropoulos.
Thanks, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Did I pronounce your name right?
No, but nobody does, so that's okay.
How do you pronounce it?
Stavropoulos.
Excellent.
I'm used to it. No worries.
Sorry for making that mistake. So tell me a bit about you. Tell me a bit about living in Greece, what you're up to with your family, what's your favorite food, and what you do when you're not working.
Well, I would like to say lots of stuff I'm doing, but between family and work and other obligations, time is quite limited. As you said, I live in Athens, Greece. I love, apart from computers, which is probably obvious, everything else that has to do with the sea. I have a 9-year-old daughter, which recently convinced us to get a cat. And I've recently learned that you don't train the cat trains you. And we are now in the process of being trained by the cat, which is great. We are doing well.
So you say you live close to the sea. What do you do? As in, do you swim? Do you dive? Do you have a boat? What do you do on the ocean?
Anything that has to do with the sea. Swimming, water skiing, windsurfing. And it's funny that people outside Europe and the Mediterranean refer to the sea as the ocean. We don't used to do this. It's not ocean. It's totally different. Yeah, the Mediterranean.
So that's so true. As in, when I just said the ocean to you, and I was thinking of the Mediterranean, and it's not really. I can see outside the Mediterranean is the ocean, but the Med's quite different.
It's a radically different experience, being in the ocean and being in the Mediterranean. But yeah.
Yeah. I've got to say, I have never been to Greece, which is a disappointment to me because I've been to all the countries around Greece, but not to Greece. Tell me, what am I missing out on not being to Greece?
Well, one thing I could tell you is that if you come to Greece, plan to do it on summer so that you can combine, going to the islands and having some fun. And you'll see by yourself what you are missing.
Nice.
But this can be fixed easily. So
yes. Once this COVID goes away, we can fix it. Exactly.
Absolutely. That's a major issue. I mean, the COVID thing. So for everybody.
So, I know a lot of people, particularly from the UK and Russia and places like this, all holiday in Greece, in the summertime. Where does somebody that lives in Greece, where do you go to holiday? Do you holiday still locally or do you go overseas?
No, it depends, it depends on the individual, but no, I holiday locally on summer. Actually, I'm waiting for the summer every year to spend some time on the islands.
Nice.
I wouldn't change it for I mean, you have Christmas. I mean, in normal years where you don't have COVID, you have Christmas, you have other opportunities to travel abroad. But for summer, it's the islands are the best choice.
Wow, nice. So let's talk a bit about your career. Even before Softomotive, you've been involved in building other software businesses. What were you doing before building Softomotive?
Yeah, indeed. So I started my career many years, I would say 8 ago, for a short period working in the private sector. And then I moved to building a business that essentially was a similar model to the initial model that was for that Softomotive. We were developing the team, then we were developing tools for people who were building websites. I'm talking now about the 2000s, so it was a major trend. Everybody was building a website back then.
Mm-hmm. So this is Linkno software?
This is Linkno, yes.
Wow. Okay.
So what was there? It was that it was a collection of tools for augmenting what you would do in the primitive then tools for building websites. So I can't even remember some of the popular tools back then. FrontPage, Microsoft FrontPage was one of them, but there were others also.
Macromedia
Director was for building Flash animations. Anyway,
that's right.
Everything looks so primitive by today's standards that it's funny. Anyway, at some point then I moved on and I sold my part to my then business partner and I started Softomotive.
So how did that come about? How did you see? Because I see this happening long before, a lot of people in the world were realizing that not all software, there was an API that they could interface with when they wanted to plug that software into another piece of software. How did Softomotive come about? What was your thinking? What was the problems that you're trying to solve at that point?
It wasn't about APIs and RPA in general. It's exactly this, how you can combine and how you can automate applications that don't provide an API, meaning legacy applications or anything that, you don't have the ease of access of well-documented API. So most of the work is done through the UI, and this is the robotic part of the RPA acronym refers exactly to this, that you are having an application that sends keystrokes and mouse clicks to oversimplify it in the same way that a human user would do. I mean, the analogy of a robot.
And so, was it a case that you had customers already at that point coming to you that had that challenge, and you started to build, let's say, custom solutions for them, and then you decided to turn it into a product that anybody could buy?
No.
What was your thinking?
No. It was the opposite. I started working on this product. I had this idea of building something that could automate the everyday tasks of a user. And I mean, as usually, these things start by scratching your own needs, so to speak. And apart from my love for computers and software, I also have an obsession about productivity, doing things as efficiently as possible. Not that I'm doing it, but I'm watching lots of YouTube videos on this, as I probably assume a lot of people do. But anyway, jokes apart, this is something that I like. Streamlining processes and doing something with less effort, something that would normally require some effort, do it through automation in a more simple way. So the idea back then and still is for a large part. The idea back then was to build a piece of software that any user would have on their own computer, and it would help them, automate their everyday processes. That was the basic idea.
So you could automate things, for example, happening with email. You could automate things happening with, any kind of task you did each day. You were looking at automating those.
Absolutely. And the difference here is that you are not automating. There's not a need for automating very common tasks, because the tasks that tend to be very common, there's already a solution for them. What you need to be doing and you need to automate is your tasks that are very specific to you. It's the long tail of tasks that are, very customized to your needs and what you are doing.
Yeah, very good, very good. So across that period of around, what was it, 15 years that you built Softomotive, what are the key highlights of that journey for you? What were the key learnings? What are the key customers maybe that really stand out in your mind?
Oh, that's an interesting question. 15 years, it's a long time to summarize it in a few minutes. But on a high level, I would say that I started back then as a B2C company. So the idea was that I worked on a software. I built a software which was called Win Automation. And then, a team started forming around me. But you would publish this software through a website. You would market it somehow. People would notice it, they would download it. If they liked it, they would purchase a license, and that's it. Simple stuff. What happened is that at some point around 2014, there was a wave, a trend from enterprises that people, in the different organizations, started to realize that this technology, which wasn't back then the way that we know it now, this technology could be proved very, very useful for their own processes. And to my surprise back then, I realized that there were many processes in large organizations that were carried out by people. And I'm talking about mundane, repetitive processes. I'm talking about armies of people who were doing from start to end, that they were, let's say, moving data from Excel spreadsheets to a web form. I couldn't imagine that this could be a case in a modern organization. But yes, there are many inefficiencies that we don't know if we are outsiders. So there was a major effort at that point. It started as a trend for automating these processes. And it's funny because we were approached by organizations, by large organizations, and we didn't know back then that the team, neither the team or I, we didn't know how to handle these customers. We didn't know basic stuff, how to issue a PO or things that may sound funny now, but we were 100% B2C company. So at some point, driven by market demand, we learned it on the job. It was when also my business partner Argyris joined the company, and we turned the company into a B2B company.
So was that around 2014 that you turned it into B2B or later?
Yes, around that, 2014 to 2015, 16, that period.
So with that focus then on B2B and targeting businesses, what changed?
At the commercial front, everything. So it's a different game, how you approach customers, how you deal with customers, the sales cycle. I mean, it's easier to find differences than similarities. On a product perspective, though, Someone could claim that there are differences, and maybe you could prioritize differently. And certainly, I mean, when you are having enterprise as customers, there are some difference in priorities, such as security, for example, or compliance, or this kind of stuff that you don't worry much when you are doing B2C. They become the highest priority. But other than that, when it comes to building the product, one thing that we were very persistent on was that we were focused on the user experience. So regardless of whether it's B2C, where of course the user experience is paramount, otherwise the user will not choose you. But even in the B2C, in the B2B world, we kept the user experience as one of our first priorities.
So is because one of the things I noticed in doing some research on the company, it seems that from the get-go, you were very focused on, what we call now the citizen developer. So really, creating a set of tools that weren't designed so much for a pro developer, so you had to learn a lot of code or something like that. You seem to have created a tool set from the start that was designed for a person that knew their job function and could see the benefit of automation in it, and then you provided the tools that allowed them to automate that function in a simple format.
Exactly. And this is a challenge that personally it fascinates me. It's something very near and dear to my heart. Coming up with a tool that empowers the user who doesn't have any technical expertise to automate, to do something on their job, not just carrying out the process, but doing something that does the work for them, without requiring from the user to upgrade themselves by learning, by becoming something else than what they are. So it's easy to demand from the user to become a, so to speak, mini developer. That makes your job much easier. But the real challenge is how you can achieve the same results for the user without requiring for them to change. And this is something that it's not a goal that has been accomplished or will be accomplished at certain point in time. It's a continuous effort. It's a continuous improvement. We are going towards this goal and will continue for a long time.
So over those years, is there any kind of industries that stood out in your mind that really adopted your technology? Any kind of key accounts? Were you focused just on Greece at that time, or were you always going for the international market?
No, the international market was on our focus from day one. I always had the strong belief that in the age of internet, there's no difference whether it's it's local or it's a few thousand kilometers or a few hundreds of thousand kilometers away. So yes, the client base was international from day one. And then again, also when we moved into the B2C, the B2B model, we also continued with international accounts. So what happened then was that it was mostly the BFSI sector, the banking, and the financial institutions, and services, and the insurance, which were the ones that pioneered in adopting RPA. The reason for that was now in retrospect, I assume that it was probably the sector with the more well-defined processes for automating, and maybe the biggest need.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Did you have any surprises, like use cases that people use the technology for, and you're like, wow, I hadn't thought of it being used that way?
Yes, quite a few. The interesting thing here is that, as I said before, when I refer to the long tail, is that every customer is different. And it's so interesting, digging deep into the processes and how they're doing this work, their work. And, you come up, both us and the customer come up with ideas on how this technology can be applied that you hadn't thought at the beginning, and it's really exciting.
So at what point did you decide that you wanted to sell, and was it Microsoft approached you, or were you already in the market to be acquired at that point? And what was that journey from moving from being your own business owner to transitioning? What is it, 9 months ago now into Microsoft?
Yes, it's something like 9 months exactly. Wow, how great! It's incredible how time flies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, we weren't for sale. We had raised our Series A funding of 25 million USD, something less than 18 months ago. So no, we were on track for growth. But what happened is that Microsoft approached us. Of course, there's no much need to talk about Microsoft, and it's a company that everybody respects, and it's a great place to be and work. So we entered into discussions. As you can imagine, these things take some time. And we found, an interesting thing also that emerged from the discussions was that we shared the same vision. By that, I mean that, yes, automating processes on an enterprise level in somehow centralized way, it's great, it's fantastic. It's the typical use case for RPA. It's what I would say that the first wave of using RPA. But then what's really important and what's really revolutionary when it comes to defining the future of work is exactly what we talked before on enabling people and empowering people do their work at a different level.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this idea of the citizen developer and of empowering the users doing their own automations that in my mind it's what's really exciting and what will bring a major difference in the near future. So we were very much aligned on this vision. Apart from the RPA technology, which we had a very robust and battle test technology, was out there for 15 years. We had a number of reputable customers. We were very well positioned in analyst reports. But the main vision was enabling the end user. And this was something that, the team at Microsoft and Charles Lamanna especially, that's leading the team, is very aligned with. And this is part of what we aim to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. So I find it very interesting, and across my 20-odd year career in the space as well, is that I'd go into company after company, and they would have 2, 3, 4 different critical software applications. And you're right, I'm thinking of banking here, I'm thinking of federal government, different use cases, and the most common way that they moved data between these systems was Control-C, Control-V on the keyboard. Right? Copy, paste, this field to that field. And this is what people's job role was day in, day out. Yeah. Hours of time spent.
Isn't it incredible? I mean, they have a name for that. It's called swivel chair operations, swivel chair processes.
Like it, swivel chair process. Yeah, yes. Exactly. And so, and this is, the key area that your software addresses. And tell me about, is there any type of specific software that you've come across more than others? Like, is it an AS400 system? Is it a COBOL system? What are those kind of, I'm even thinking old Fox Pro systems that, had no kind of APIs often with them, though you could build them. Are there any kind of main systems that you're coming across that are in more that enterprise space that, don't have an API and therefore RPA is the way to address that business problem?
Yes. A typical example that is still here and it isn't going away anytime soon is mainframes. A lot of organizations do part of their processes rely on systems that run on mainframes, are accessed through terminal emulation software because we don't have, fortunately, we don't have the terminals, the hardware terminals anymore.
Yeah.
That's an improvement. But yes. In the back end, have very often you see mainframes and part of the processes rely on systems that live there. This is one example. Then, of course, there are different clusters of applications. It's the web applications from one part, desktop applications. Of course, that they group around maybe major vendors such as SAP for desktop mainly applications or others. Yes, we do see this kind of concentration around some pillars, but there's also a lot of diversity too.
Yeah. So with moving into Microsoft, how will Microsoft use the tooling? It's obviously going to sit in the Power Automate part of the business. Steven Siciliano, Charles Lamanna, running that part of it. What, and if we look at flows, we're very cloud-centric in how all, that technology works. Your solution, and I will admit I've used Power Automate Desktop in recent months. I've actually trained a lot of people on it. And was your product always very desktop centric? And is it moving and becoming, part of that whole cloud story? Where is it kind of on that landscape?
Yeah. So RPA in general is mainly focused on the desktop, on the on-premises environments, and the reason for that is that the main direction is that you are doing automations through the user interface. So now our technology is now part of Power Automate, which in turn is part of Power Platform, and that's another unique advantage, the fact that we started with a dedicated solution, a very specific solution, but now it's part of a larger family of products which all work together and interoperate, and you get so many advantages and benefits from that. Mm-hmm. So when it comes specifically to Power Automate, our technology is now the RPA arm of Power Automate. So we have now in Power Automate what we call cloud flows, which is the automations that you build by calling APIs, and these automations run on the cloud. And we have the desktop flows, which are automations that mainly interact with the user interface of different applications, and for that reason, they must run, on the same environment, the same machine with the applications that they automate, and so these are called desktop flows.
Yes.
So there's the cloud part and the desktop part.
And of course, a desktop flow could trigger a cloud flow. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes, and it's mostly the other way around. You have it starting from the cloud, where you have all the orchestration and governance tools and environments. So on the cloud, now you have everything that you need to manage your automations at scale. Whether it's the typical COE, Center of Excellence paradigm, where you are having a number of automations running on dedicated machines in an unattended manner, or you have a large number of employees, each one having their own software or robot, if you like, to defer their tasks. So everything is managed from the cloud. And then, depending on the automation, you may want it to have an automation that either lives and runs on the cloud or lives and runs on your desktop, depending, of course, on your specific needs. All this, of course, combined with a number of additional features, apart from the interoperability with the other members of the Power Platform family. But of course, there's artificial intelligence. There's what we call AI Builder. There's process advisor, which is process intelligence component for discovering the automations that you need to build. It's a part of a much larger ecosystem.
Yeah. I love that, discovering automations that need to be built. So looking for roadblocks or processes that are perhaps not performing as efficiently as they could, and then potentially look at solutions to those.
Yep, that's also a very important part. It happens very often to do something repetitive that can be automated without being aware of, and even more when it's not about a single individual, but it's a team, a larger team that does the same process across the members of the team multiple times, and you need a tool there to find out that there's an opportunity here to save some time and some money.
Yeah, nice. What's the scope for growth or evolution of RPA? Is it? Would you say it's now a full mature industry, and therefore your product is fully matured in it, or do you see there's still a lot of opportunity ahead to address business problems that haven't been tackled yet? In other words, how much runway, how much scope do you have to continue to evolve RPA for future scenarios?
Yeah, it's definitely the latter. It's definitely the latter. I mean, it depends on the use case. For the processes that can be centralized, can be automated, can be documented, and can easily be automated, the technology that we have is enough. But this is only a small percentage of the processes that are potentially automatable. And the room for growth here and for increased adoption in the coming years, it's huge. Starting from unblocking more complex scenarios with the use of AI, which is a very important aspect, and this is, this brings us back in the discussion and in the decision for Softomotive to join Microsoft. At some point, you see that you can do an excellent work, a very specific and narrow domain, but when it comes to automation, recently Gartner came up with the term hyper-automation, meaning all the technologies that are needed and are required around automating a process. It's where you really need to, in order to deliver the value that you want to deliver to the customers and to the market, you really need the muscle of a company like Microsoft. A specialized vendor cannot provide the full breadth of capabilities that are required in the automation journey for the customer. And so, yes, that was an important part. So, as I said, artificial intelligence and a number of enabling technologies will be employed into unlocking new use cases for this technology. And of course, I will say it once more, I'm never tired of saying this, having real adoption from the end user and making the end user building their own automations. This will be a total game changer in the near future. I see this coming. I see that organizations are realizing the value that comes out of it, and one after the other jumping in the wagon, and they are adopting this trend.
Awesome. So a lot of opportunity ahead, obviously. Well, congratulations, on selling to Microsoft. And I know that, some of the whispers I've heard from customers that perhaps we're using other RPA tools are now switching because they know that when Microsoft invests in a piece of technology, they're in for the long haul, they're in for the long game. And it's going to be, when this is bundled, of course, with everything else in the Power Platform, it's a very compelling solution.
Yeah, I'm happy to admit that what you hear as whispers indeed is the case. We do have customers, small and large, switching from other vendors to Microsoft. It's very clear from our part that automation is central to Microsoft's strategy, along with the entire Power Platform proposition and the enablement of the citizen developer. So it's not couldn't be an opportunistic effort. It's something that Microsoft stands strongly behind it, and we're gonna see very, very interesting stuff in the near future around this technology.
Before I just wrap up with some quick fire questions, is there anyone you'd recommend from within Microsoft as a guest for the show in future?
I would need a few minutes to think about it. Yeah,
that's all right. You can email me afterwards. I always like to wrap up with some quick fire questions. Now these are random, right? They're totally random, and your answers can be just as random.
Fantastic. Quick fire to a guy who's not a native speaker. Fantastic. Thank you very much.
I know. I'll try and be gentle on you. I'll try and be gentle. Okay, the first one. What was the first concert you ever went to?
Wow.
What band?
That brings me back. It was a Greek rock singer, I think.
It'd be in the 80s,
I'm approaching
right?
my 50s, so we are talking about, I don't know how, 30-something years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Any favorite band that stands out for you over time?
I'm not, I'm not a huge music fan. I would say Pink Floyd.
Nice. Good group, definitely. If you could only drink one alcohol for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Are you kidding me?
One alcohol.
One alcohol? Why? You're making it more and more difficult. I'm a wine lover, of course.
Okay, wine,
I would have a hard time deciding between wine and whiskey.
Okay, very good. Would you rather explore space or the ocean?
Space. I have this secret desire. I would like it to happen sometime in my life.
I love it. What's the best hotel you've ever stayed in?
The good thing with business is that you travel a lot and you stay to different hotels. But now, just from top of my mind, many years ago in the Maldives for holidays in a resort. The Maldives tourism organization, they had as a motto or as a slogan that it was the art of doing nothing, which I love.
Nice. I love it. Yeah. Very good. Marios, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you again. I look forward to publishing this soon.
Same here. Thank you very much for having me. Have a great day.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Business Application MVP, Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 guy. If there's a Microsoft guest that you'd like to see on the show, please message me via LinkedIn. Please like and subscribe in your favorite podcast player. And if you'd like to leave a review, go to nz365guy.com/review. Otherwise, stay safe out there and see you next time.